Welcome, fellow comic book fans. It's Friday, and that means it's time for the comic book showdown of Ultimate Destiny.
There can be only one.
I'm glad you like that, Smurf.
There can be
I am Matt Campbell, creator of Mythica, which is an indie comic series where a Scottish soldier and a sultry Irish spy form unlikely alliances to survive and fight against some demons that are hunting them down in the midst of World War One. We have Kickstarter coming soon. And Smurf, introduce yourself.
I am Smurf. I am the owner and purveyor of 5280 Geek, which is a pop culture inspired and fueled website that gives you everything geeky from movies, comics, my take on shows, my own podcast called Weekend Geek Update. I'm also the co-founder of the Colorado Festival of Horror. I'm also the commander of the Colorado Ghostbusters. What else? What else do I do? I mean, this weekend I'm a son. I go to mother for Mother's Day, and I be the loving son. There we go.
Right on, right on. Well, we are here to guide you through the labyrinth of crowdfunding campaigns to unearth some hidden gems in the comic book world. But first, a quick recap of this week's events. Smurf, what's going on with you? Something about getting hit with a car.
Okay, so Free Comic Book Day was wonderful. It went off without a hitch. We came, we saw, we got great free comics. But in the midst of all this chaos, we're driving down the road and we have a blowout on the tire. Gotta love the potholes in Colorado.
Yeah.
So as I am taking the tire off, and I've done this many, many times. I mean, I'm no, stranger to cars or being a gearhead. I'm taking the tire off. The jack collapses and pins me on my arm. You can still see some of the scratches.
Oh my goodness.
So the car comes down and pins me between the fender and the tire, and I can't get out. So thankfully I had friends with me that are trying to get it off of me because I can feel the weight of the car coming down. And finally, a good Samaritan, a highway angel, stops. He gets out of his car. He's driving a Tesla. He gets out. He helps lift the car up off of me so that I can get my hand out, make sure I'm okay. He jumps back in his Tesla and off he goes. So the roadside guardian angel helped my friends save my bacon. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that must have been so scary.
Dude, it was okay. So usually I'm the cool thinking one. I'm the rational one. And when I'm the one that's pinned and I can't make a plan because I can't get my hand out, that's a problem. So I had my moments of just like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Yes. Thank you. Appreciate it. It was kind of harrowing because we're on Highway 36. I mean, the slowest car going down that street, 60, 70 miles an hour. I mean, this is Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. Nobody cares about the speed limit at that point. So it was wild, but everything turned out okay. Maybe some hairline fractures in my hand from the tire and the pinning of the fender.
Have you had it looked at?
I've got enough medical background and experience with sports to know when I've got range of motion. I can feel my fingers. There's no burning. You make that face. Everybody makes that face, but I know what I'm doing. I've had it in an air cast all week. It's the exact same thing they would have done with me if I had gone to the emergency room. So I already know what protocol is. I'm very well trained in medical, like ER kind of like triage shit. So I can put myself back together.
Well, part of that face was because that sounds like something I would do as well, except I don't have the experience. I just don't want to go to the doctor. So I'm like, it's just a flesh wound. I'm fine. And I look like, the guy from Fallout who lost his leg. I'm like, I'm just fine.
Yep. I mean, that's exactly what it would have been. So, I mean, there's just I will be
Becky makes a good point that you do not have an X-ray machine though.
I do not, but I can feel. I have the delicate sense.
Ow.
Okay. See, so but I've taken precautions, and if it's still bothering me, usually a week after swelling comes down, they would put you in a cast. If it's hairline fractures, there's something to keep it immobilized for 6 weeks, which is what I'm doing anyway. So, again, I know what they would do. I know how to do
that. Totally looks immobilized right now.
Shush!
Okay.
If I stand here like this, will that help?
No. Quickly before like all these comments scroll away, welcome Ruth and Chris. Welcome Becky and the out of touch one, who I don't know who that is. Maybe you do. Colleen, welcome. They seem to know you. Says that he's an amateur field medic. He'll be fine.
Again, see, I kind of know what I'm doing on this one. On this one, there are times, it's dodgy, but this one, I kind of know. Old student, yes, old student, absolutely.
All right, well, for me, last Saturday was Free Comic Book Day, and I neglected to get any pictures, but I did meet a ton of new people at Mutiny Cafe in Denver. I had a great time. I didn't get my books stocked with him, Jeff, right?
Yeah.
I kept wanting to call him Pete earlier.
Don't you hate that? Because somebody that's the name you see for them, regardless of what their name is?
Yeah, I don't know why. But so he came in, he was like, here you go. We were set up in the back. It was really cold that day for some reason. And then we had to leave early for another reason that I'll share in a second. But I went to go to him and say, hey, I want to stock you with some of my books. And I don't know if he just doesn't believe in employees or what, because he was up at the front register, and there was another guy at the register who seemed to be doing much of nothing, but he had a line of people, and I wasn't able to, get in there. I had to go. So then I tried to stop back by on Sunday, and there was no parking. It was packed. Just like you said, it is packed up. But the reason that we had to leave early is because Julie won tickets to the Nuggets playoffs. I think it was game 1, round 2. Mm-hmm. And it was a great time. I mean, they were even sweet tickets, as in SUITE, not SWEET, although they were sweet as well. Maybe that's why they call them that. I don't know. But every single seat in the house, because it was playoffs, had a shirt draped over the chair. So everyone got a shirt. And then if you bought a can of drink, whether it was a soda or whatnot, they also came with a koozie that had the playoff stuff on it. But they're these extra tall koozies, so you can only use them if you have a tall drink. Otherwise, it sort of engulfs your can.
All right.
But it was a great game. It was super exciting, and they had some new effects. One of them was these. Each seat also had these electronic wristbands that would light up, and they were in sync with all kinds of different things. So they lit up the stadium, and I did take some video of that, which I posted on my personal Matt Campbell page on Facebook. But it was a great time. Too bad they lost, but they put up this other team, and the guy Edwards, or I think his name is, he was just a beast. He put up 43 points by himself.
Yeah, he's a beast.
But just a couple days later, Jokic was named the
MVP?
NBA's MVP.
Yep.
Even though it was funny because he said, "I'd rather win a championship." I've been doing this. I love how blunt he is.
He doesn't care about the politics. He just wants to play basketball and bet on the ponies with his brothers.
Yeah. And he treats it like a job. It's just like a job he's got to go do, and then he gets back to work. But I love the guy. So yeah, the rest of this week was spent getting grades for all 4 of my college classes.
I saw that. You posted up a picture of your students and their newly printed books. I thought that was spectacular. Yeah, look at that. Right, look at those happy faces. Future artists right there.
That's right.
I love
these guys. Every time we have a comic book class, each student picks a script, because I have pre-made 3-page scripts for them. And we go through thumbnailing and layout, and then penciling techniques and inking techniques and lettering, and then we submit it in black and white to the printer, who Bob Conway from Avante Press gets ready for me and printed, and he even went to the extent of coming to Mutiny Cafe to drop them off for me.
Nice!
Because literally on Monday was the last day of school. So then, I mean, my favorite part is usually that last day when they get to see this comic in their hand. They're all excited, and it's kind of like yearbook. Everybody's signing their books. But that took up, this week was a lot of grading, a lot of catching up, getting that stuff to them. So now that's all done, and I can put my focus more into Back to Mythica and the upcoming Kickstarter. That I'm pretty excited about. Speaking of campaigns, each week we take the comic campaigns that are submitted on the Facebook page, the Action Line Studios Facebook page. There's a post every week that's pinned to the top for you to submit your active campaign, and we enter them into the Wheel of Destiny. Yeah. Today's no exception. We have a slew of exciting campaigns lined up, but only one will emerge victorious and get our backing. So, buckle up, folks, because it's time for another comic book showdown of Ultimate Destiny. Quiet little. Hold on, let's do that louder. Comic book showdown of Ultimate Destiny. There we go. All right. So let's take a look at our contenders. Oh, I gotta show the screen.
Gotta show the screen there, buddy.
Yep.
You may want to turn your music down a little bit too.
Thank you.
You're a little hot.
Thank you. I had to turn it up for the sound effects because it's the same thing. So,
there we go.
There we go. All right. So. This week we've got some great entries. One of them has a cover by my friend John Boy Myers, who's done stuff for Spawn and G.I. Joe. So let's take a look. We've got Steamroller Man, Kaijus and Cowboys, the Department of MetaHuman Affairs.
Ooh.
Worthy Chaos Redemption, which I think is up to like 9 or 10. They're trucking right along. The Salvaged Sea Newt. Very interesting name. Cerulean the Sorceress, and Two-Eyed Tales of Dracula. Nice selection. So, let's see if it's their destiny to be chosen today. Let me move this over here. Here we go. First up. All right, the first one is the Department of MetaHuman Affairs.
Sweet! All right.
Give me just 1 second to make sure I got that one pulled up.
I mean, that's not like mutant or like metas cheating with other metas, is it? I mean, this isn't like a...
We will find out. We will find out. We don't know yet. All right. Next up, let's hit the Wheel of Destiny to find out. Looks like Cerulean the Sorceress, #1. Congratulations. Let me pull that one up. There it is. That looks like an Indiegogo campaign. Yep. All right, next up, last one. Who will it be? Looks like Worthy Chaos Redemption. Congratulations on that one as well. Let's see the one. There it is. All right, we have our selection for the week. Remove that one. All right, guys, just as a reminder, if you weren't selected this week, you can enter again next week as long as your campaign is still live. But if the Wheel of Destiny has chosen you to be on the show, then you cannot be entered again. At least not with the same campaign.
Nope.
All right, so let me grab a different tab. First up is the Department of MetaHuman Affairs. All right, here we go. Department of MetaHuman Affairs, Volume 1, hardcover. Selection of the first 6 issues of DMA with the backup stories for 180 pages of fantastic entertainment reminiscent of X-Men 97. Trying to play off of that a bit, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, that is a lofty goal. 19,500. That's a big one. Let's take a look and see what this video tells us.
Hey, come on! Not yet? Yeah. Hey, come on! Not yet?
People buy views and now it's old news, but also bad news for everybody. People buy views and now it's old news, but I got bad news for everybody. Holy water is no juice, but I know.
That's it?
Okay.
Okay. All right. That didn't tell me much.
Okay, scroll down. Maybe we're missing something. Is there more to this than meets the eye?
From the Darkness, Heroes Rise, collecting issues 1 through 3. Basically, it's just telling me like what this is. So yeah, that didn't tell me. So far, we got a title and a video, and I still don't know what this is about.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it is indeed. All right, down to the story. 5 people so broken they can't help themselves are supposed to save Americans? Question mark. So broken they can't help themselves.
Can't help themselves or can't save themselves?
I don't know. They're supposed to save Americans, right? After a tragedy leaves several of the world's greatest heroes wounded or dead, it's up to the president and his administration to respond with a radical new plan, the Department of MetaHuman Affairs. Assembling a team led by a retired teenage sidekick okay, so like a Robin character, with 2 felons, an actor from Broadway, and a reprogrammed cyborg. For their first mission is to track down the criminals who robbed the bank and set the world at ease. Wait a minute, I'm a little confused by this wording. Let me read that again. Assembling a team led by sidekick, 2 felons, an actor from Broadway, and a reprogrammed cyborg. Their first mission is to track down the criminals who robbed the bank. The bank. Apparently there's one.
Would it be a bank, not the
yes,
bank?
It would be. It would be a bank. And set the world at ease. So the criminals robbed the bank and set the world at ease? That's how I'm reading that.
To set the world at ease. Okay. They're not
It
right.
says They robbed the bank and set the world at ease. So, in robbing the bank, they set the world at ease.
Yes.
And if they're at ease, then why do we need to track them down? I don't understand that quite so far. So it looks like this again is a collection of the first 6 issues. So you're gonna get a whole complete story.
Which is good. I mean, there's something to be said
Well, at
for
least I should say hopefully you get a complete story.
complete story.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's very okay. It's very Suicide Squad-y.
Yeah, I mean, with a retired teenage sidekick, 2 felons, and an actor from Broadway, and a reprogrammed cyborg. That's the team there.
Okay.
I mean, it's comics. I can suspend disbelief that the president of the United States would put, the fate of the country into the hands of these people.
Especially to set everyone's mind at ease.
Well, the thing is, again, I don't know if it's these new heroes that are trying to set the world at ease. The way that that's worded, it sounds like the criminals who robbed the bank set the world at ease.
Right. All right.
I'm pretty sure you're supposed to say that the robbing of the bank made the world uneasy, and they need to set them back at ease.
Okay, and this is something that really we've kind of tiptoed around, and we haven't discussed openly. But have someone edit your shit. All right. I mean, even I still have people do like a second pass over some of my larger writing projects and stories and things that I work on, just because you get too close to it. You start seeing what you wrote, but you don't see you're writing. You don't see what you're writing. So you lose impact with your words because they're improperly used, or the syntax is incorrect, or punctuation means a lot in scripts, because that's how the story is told. Especially in a campaign, and you're doing a synopsis. There are questions that are there only because of how it is written, not because of what the story is.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm looking at here, the art looks nice.
Art is good.
Feels very comic book superhero like.
Yeah.
I mean, these scenes look like definitely, like he said, X-Men-esque.
Very.
I will say that it isn't easy. There's some nice looking fight scenes.
Yeah.
It is not easy to pitch such a big story.
No.
I mean, imagine just trying to pitch the idea of an X-Men story.
I mean, it's not easy, and you don't do yourself any favors with. I mean, unless have there been other campaigns for this story arc? How else would I have seen issues 1, 2, and 3 previously? Is this the first time that all 3 are being offered?
That part I don't know. I would assume that there was some release of them, because he says somewhere in here in the previous issues we saw.
Right. So I mean, I would hope that maybe it's been a digital book. Maybe this is the first time it's coming to print. These are all excellent facts that would have actually been good in the video. The music, I don't know anything about the music, and it didn't like ring any bells, and that's fine. But I was more interested and distracted with the music because, again, it was very loud, and there was not a whole lot of content for me to focus in on. Pacing was fine on the slides, but again, there's not a whole lot of information relayed.
Yeah. So this is a lesson that I learned the hard way when I started Mythica. And so for all of you out there who are making your own indie comics, writing books, whatever you're doing, a lot of times we start off with a story that we want to tell personally. We're personally connected to it. And also we tend to make it epic and have all these parts because we want to throw a lot of things into it. But one of the things that I didn't learn until much later is you need to consider, who is this for? Who is your target audience? And then cater your pitches and your campaigns to that audience. Right? This seems to be targeted towards an audience that's for X-Men. Well, what do they like about X-Men? Is it the action? Is it that it's nostalgic and you're trying to target people that are, older and fans of the 80s? What angle are you taking to really sell them? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Know your audience.
When I started Mythica, I just wanted to make a comic that had a guilty character, Scottish soldier. I hadn't really seen that in comics yet, and I wanted to draw monsters. Those were the two premises that I started with. But then it expanded into this like ensemble cast. But I used to try and pitch the whole cast when I would introduce it. I'd be like, oh, there's Magnus, and then there's other characters and this. And now it basically is broken down into a simple pitch that says, when demons start tearing apart everyone close to them, a Scottish soldier and a sultry Irish spy form unlikely alliances to do anything and everything they can to survive and hold on to what they can. This introduces relationships, it has monsters, and you know what's going on and what they're trying to achieve, and it's simple. Right? So whatever your project is, even if it is epic, you've got to break it down into some basics that people can grasp onto instead of trying to remember all these things. Notice I didn't mention his name or her name or any specific names because nobody's going to remember that if you throw out too much at them.
Well, they go non-linear and they're like, okay, I'm out. I mean, you have me at like X-Men, which is okay. That's fine. I like X-Men, but that's about all I got. And it's like the Suicide Squad. Okay.
So the other thing that I would question, like when I see a goal this big, I mentioned this last week, I think, is what is it that's making that goal so lofty?
That's a big goal.
That is a big goal. And it's achievable, but only if you have a following already. I met a person this weekend at at Free Comic Book Day, who had launched a graphic novel, his first ever graphic novel on Kickstarter, and did better than any of my Kickstarter campaigns have ever done. And when I sat
what was his secret?
Well, his secret was that he has a YouTube channel that has, brace yourselves, 11 million followers.
Holy balls! All right, good on him.
So a lot of that carried over. He had the audience to begin with, and that's really what it takes. So that's something you have to remember if you have a goal that big. Like, is it to hire the team to finish the book? If so, that's a lot to go. And that also means that if you don't reach this goal, does that mean that you're going to have to stop this whole project? Which is, unfortunate. Hopefully not. Right? But I like the art. I'm almost intrigued, but not quite. But we're gonna see what else we have before we make a decision.
Yep.
Let's move on to the next one. I did it. There we go. And then share new screen. Next up is, I'm just going to go with Worthy Chaos Redemption. All right, so this campaign is put on by Carissa Grant, who I've seen a lot in the indie comic community and groups, and has been very consistent. This looks like the 10th issue. So I don't come across a lot of indie creators who are up into these numbers. So that's always intriguing, and it gives a little bit of validity to it,
right?
Or security that if I get interested in the story, there's going to be more, right? Whereas with 1 or 2 issue comics, you don't really know, you don't have any idea whether or not they're going to be, consistent about coming out with the next book. So,
Yep.
All right. This says we're the Chaos Redemption horror supernatural comics. Hey, we're right up your alley, Smurf.
Right there.
A fight for survival against destiny and the forces of the underworld. Think Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, and Supernatural. Nice.
Cool.
Let's take a look. No, I'm not ready for another round.
No.
This is a 4-minute video.
Wait. Okay. So
Right.
So what I love that it's consistent. I love the art, but I think I love the art. It's so fast as we go through this, especially for a 4-minute video. Whoa. Now, what I would have done, in my humble opinion, I would have done previously in issues 8 and 9, because we're pitching 10, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so 10 is what we're pitching, and I would have done previously in issues 8 and 9, still available, and do a quick flash. And then do a little bit longer of a presentation for issue 10, because that's the pitch. You still want people to buy the older issues, but hopefully that, that's already funded, and that's gravy now at this point, because you've made your money. But the focus is 10, and then we get into 10, but it's very, very quick and very loud.
Yeah, was it me, or did that intro kind of have like an X-Men vibe to it?
It did. It did have.
Okay.
It did have a bit of a 90s kind of like, yeah.
So, I'm right there with you. I think that when I see the words that were written on the intro were very intriguing.
Yes.
Very clear. I'm going to reread those. Fight for survival against destiny and the forces of the underworld. Destiny's broad, and this, in our show, it's about getting chosen for a comic book for the week. Destiny can be a lot of things, so that's a little vague. But think Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Resident Evil. So they're setting it up nicely. But you're right. When we get to the video, I got a little confused. This is not nearly long enough to actually read. I realize it's a disclaimer, so maybe just... But disclaimers don't need to actually be there legally, so
no.
If you're going by that premise, then that's just not enough to read.
No.
It's interesting, now, this hospital is throwing everything at you. I'm going to play this real time. So
okay.
I really don't think that's enough time to read that.
It isn't. And the text in the background are the similar color, so it's difficult to read.
One of the things we talk about in my graphic design classes is text itself is considered busy. There's lots of holes and ins and outs. So when you put text over a busy background, you're putting busy on top of busy, and it's going to make it difficult. So it's generally best to put text over a pretty vague background. But also read your text out loud and then add another couple seconds on top of that so that, there's enough time to read it. This hospital's throwing everything at our dynamic duo. Literally. This seemed kind of campy and cartoony. Like, so I'm not really sure which direction this comic is going now. Is it more, horror, or is it more comedy? Which both are fine, and both can even exist at the same time. Yes. I'm just trying to get a feel for what I am about to invest in. So I'm not sure.
I kind of like camp. I mean, it is very Buffy, very kind of okay. There's some eclectic things. Why is that a thimble? I mean, evidently that's a bucket, and who doesn't love a good bucket? But I mean, I have questions, and I'm enjoying this splash scene. It's just okay, just interesting.
Let me turn the volume down on this so we don't have to keep listening back. So after a quick wardrobe change, however, right? So something else that we talk about in my class is the text itself needs time to be read, but it doesn't actually count as time to be read until it comes to a full stop. If the text is moving across the page and animating, that doesn't count as read time unless it's scrolling really slow like the Star Wars is.
Yep.
Right? Add to that we also have an image on the left to look at. So you're asking us to look at two different things moving at the same time. And we can't focus on both. So I'm either going to read this or I'm going to see that picture quickly. I'm not really going to get a good time for either of them.
No.
Right? Now, I know I'm nitpicking a lot of video stuff here, but my last project for my last class was video editing, so I'm it's in the hot spot of my brain.
All right.
But one of the things about transitions is you want our eye to be in wherever our eye was focused on, that's where we want to be focused on in the next frame.
Yep, because it's only natural, because that's where the eye trace is going to go. That's how marketing works when you're watching commercials. If they do a pan, your eye is already focused on one thing so that it catches you with what the point of the next slide or frame is.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, if you're reading this text, it's moving down to the bottom right. And as soon as it changes, watch where the next text comes from.
Yep, top left.
Right? And so suddenly we have to jump over there, which is time taken away from being able to read it. Right?
Yep.
So when you transition...
It looks cool, but it's just these little things that help you in the long run.
I think that the artwork, I don't know that all of this information is necessary, maybe make a new friend, that's something maybe we could learn either in the story or down in the information below, but it's not exactly a selling point. I'm going to buy this book because this person I don't know might make a new friend.
Right.
I'm going to buy this book because it's horror and it's funny and maybe it's sexy and apparently there's a wardrobe changes, those are the selling points.
It's all about the costumes.
Right? And again, in all of the times we do these reviews, it's not about whether or not the story is good or not, because we haven't looked at them. It's about what we're being presented. And so, so far, there's that busy on busy text again.
Yeah.
There's a lot to take in. So that one's not too bad to read. So I'm guessing that they're going backwards. I'm guessing the first one was about issue 10 and then they were showing the other stuff.
Yeah, see, I think, again, slide placement's huge, because if you do a previously issue 8 and 9 and give us kind of a little backstory and lead in, then maybe you can lead off with, and she makes a new friend in issue 10. And, in addition to wardrobe changes and explosions and, eclectic buckets with thimbles. It's, I get it, but it's out of order again and way too long and too short. which makes
Yeah, I'd be surprised, if how many people like might get all the way to the end of this, because it pretty much continues. Now, keep in mind, I get you have 10 issues to show off, but I don't know that we need to know every moment and every beat of all those issues, right? I
yeah.
would just take the highlights. That being said, I still feel more intrigued, only slightly though, than the previous one.
Correct.
This one at least has told me what's going on, a couple of the characters, some information, right? Again, down here we start with Supernatural and Buffy, both of which are horror / campy, so it fits. Open with what's something unique about our story. The two main characters are written by two different people. That is interesting. Draven's dialogue thoughts are written by Jess, and Serafina is written by Carissa Grant. This gives two characters individual personalities. That's an interesting approach.
I like it.
I feel like someone's got to be the editor, though, and make sure it all ties together well. The fate of heaven, hell, and the entire cosmos hangs in the balance. Serafina, a descendant of angels and demon descendant Draven. So one character is a descendant of angels, one is a descendant of demons. Bound by destiny, must unearth their forgotten powers, unlock the secrets of their past lives, and rewrite the internal conflict between angel and demon. Right? So I think that again is something that might be briefly mentioned up top. One's a demon, one's an angel, or something. Just gives us a quick idea. We've already published 1 through 9 and a hardcover, so they're trucking out along. So obviously there's people who are into this story, and the artwork. Here's the book 2, chapter 3, which is issue 10. There's a lot of numbers in there.
It is.
But I understand why they're doing that, though. Like, keep people clear about what's going on. I mean, that's nice looking cover art.
Yeah.
And then they got, I don't know whose cover this is, but that looks cool. Virgin cover and art and colored by Ivan Tao, artist for DC, Marvel, and Boom. Right. I think that's our naughty nurse character. All right, well, I would say that right now I'm slightly more intrigued about this one, but we still got one more to go. So let's remove that one, stop sharing, share the new one. Smurf's over there jamming out to our tunes. Next up, Cerulean the Sorceress. An exciting old school sword and sorcery action and intrigue in a large magazine-sized comic book.
Oh, all right.
8.5 by 11. I saw that this past weekend at Free Comic Book Day. One of the artists / comic creators there had their comic in 8.5 by 11 magazine format. What do you guys think about that? Leave your comments in the comment section of whatever you're watching. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and a couple places, so leave your comments. We'll see them.
I'm indifferent, because I know, like, when DC was trying to do their Black Label, they tried their hand at magazine size, but the bags and boards are hard to come by. The storage is different. You can't put it in a regular short box. You got to get a magazine box, and then you got to find someone that sells magazine boxes. And magazines are kind of dying out. So I like the ambitiousness of it, and I like the larger format. But from a collector's storage reader aspect, it's a little bit dodgier.
I think that comes from possibly not knowing a printer that prints comic book format. I knew when I first started printing comics, they're not easy to find. printers that print in comic book format. And so that could have been the problem. Whereas printers that will print 8.5 by 11 are much easier to come by because it's just an 11 by 17 folded in half.
Right, and I mean it's great. I mean, Turtles started out as a magazine format, and even issue 4 was both magazine and regular comic book format. So you can find success, but it's a little difficult.
Yep. Well, let's
And
give
one
it
of
a shot.
my favorites, the Tick Spoon. That was all magazine format, all of the first 12 issues.
Is that right? See, that's why I love having you on the show. You have so much comic book history and knowledge embedded in that big brain of yours.
Huge. In fact, the first die-cut cover is Tick number 2. That was the first die-cut cover ever for comic books, and it was a little window that was cut out that has the Tick strapped up to a rocket inside the page. So, Tick number 2. There you go.
So much knowledge. All right, let's take a look at Cerulean the Sorceress, an exciting old school sword and sorcery action. Well, we don't know what it's about yet.
You know, however, I've got more information based on the images than I have the 2 previous ones. Yeah. I love this intro. The bringing in the different images, and first it being sketches and then the color and all of that was added. I thought that was very clever. That's a great use of time, space, and it gets the viewer's attention. That is a great hook. Yeah,
I there's a lot of different ways to do it. I've done little like TikTok videos or something where you start off with a sketch and then sort of reveal the layers of everything, and it's as it progresses. But You're right, I do like it. When I was watching this, I mean, call me shallow, but I'm a sucker for comics with girls in bikinis. So that caught my attention.
Girls in bikinis.
I'm a sword and sorcery fan. This work reminds me of an artist. Do you remember the comic book? I think I'm trying to remember the publisher, but it was called Sinbad, and it was made in the 2000s. There's a company that does a lot of comics that tend to be referred to as TNA comics, but they got some stories, like they did Fly and any of that ringing a bell?
I remember it, kinda, yeah. I mean, looking at it, it does kind of remind me of like Telos, which was an old Image title back in the 90s. Yeah.
Well, the art of this like reminds me even of I'll have to look up who Brent Bowman is, but it reminds me of Sinbad. Like, I wonder if it's like the same person.
Might be. Also kind of like an ElfQuest element, kind of the art feel to it, for me.
Yeah. Ruth says, I love that you're all offering constructive criticism to the artist, so helpful. That's what we want to do here. That's what this show's about.
That's what we're about. We want to help everybody.
I love people trying to tell their stories, and we just want to help them succeed at it.
Because at the end result, it's really about me, because I want good shit to read and look at. I mean, really, honestly, if I'm gonna, I just want some good shit out there. Because Cape Comics, whoo, it's it's a bloodbath right now. But this, and why not spread the knowledge and experience of all the years? So thank you very much.
So this says writer Dara Narigi, that's me, and the artist Brent Bowman present an exciting new sword and sorcery comic book born out of our love for fantasy novels, D&D, sword and sorcery movies of the 80s, and Savage Sword of Conan. You got me there. I like all those things. I except for D&D, I'll say I like the premise of D&D. I don't necessarily like playing D&D. That's a conversation for another time. But all of the rest of that stuff got my attention just because it happens to be the thing that I like. And that's smart marketing. You're saying this is who this is for. They got several pinups. Here we go. Here's a little bit of info. Banished from the capital city of Bactia for treason by the scheming queen sorceress Cerulean, now roams the kingdom of Maladorn in search of adventure, mystical knowledge, and a sense of purpose.
That's got to be that big splash page that we saw with what looks like the White Queen, which was great. That was a nice, tight frame on that image, and that actually left a bigger impression than the opening sequence for me, just simply because of just how crisp and just empowering and impactful that was. You're like, okay, you don't mess that's a bad bitch. She will kick your ass. And then of course, we get some what is a Conan story without the brothel bar scene? I mean, come on.
Yep. I
love it.
This guy's like codpiece thing or something he's got going on over here.
It's
not
everlast.
really sure what that is. But I do know there is a discussion, and if anybody knows more about this, then feel free to message me or leave it in the chat. But there is some talk on Kickstarter about being a little bit tighter on adult content. Because this is the Kickstarter is ran through Stripe, all the payments and stuff through Stripe, and Stripe's a much bigger business than Kickstarter is.
Is this an Indiegogo or is this Kickstarter? I thought this is Indiegogo.
You're right. This is Indiegogo, so doesn't necessarily apply to this one. I apologize. But for those of you that know about what's going on with Kickstarter, I'm curious to find out, because I do have a comic book in waiting that is a sexy book, and Stripe is the one who's saying that they have limitations on what kind of things that they'll support and take payments for. And so I'm hearing that there might be some new regulations, because right now sexy, not safe for work comics are a big thing on Kickstarter. They're bringing in lots of money, and it would be interesting to see how that affects things. But I really like the art. The lettering here looks clean, professional. I'm assuming, based on all these pages, that the interior is just being left black and white. But the thing about it is that this black and white art is carrying its own weight. It's got heavy blacks. It's the kind of artwork that I like, where the artwork holds its own. So I'm intrigued by that as well.
Well, and I like, because I honestly think color is not always necessary, especially nowadays. I mean, like, some of Frank Cho's best artwork, because of his cross-hatching and how he does his layouts and his pages, are better without color. Another popular horror book, and I brought this up last week, Faust, by Tim Vigil, is I like that black and white, the details and all that. And even Wrightson's stuff is so much better with the grayscale than with colors. Yes, I said it. At me if you like, but Wrightson's artwork shouldn't be messed with color. I'm telling you, this is in that vein. That the details, and it's not muddied. It's a good, crisp image. The artwork is solid, and the black and white and the grayscale works really, really well here.
So this is a total sidebar, but as you may know, my future goals for Mythica are to hire another artist to do the line art. And I will still be overseeing it. I'm basically wanting to pull a Todd McFarlane and find my Cthulhu, right? I keep saying
You want to be the Todd father.
I would love to do that, you know. But part of that reason is that I have another comic I want to get going on, and I realize I can't do everything. And this book will, move faster if I get myself out of the way in some cases.
It happens.
So, my question is, can you imagine this artist working on Mythica?
I mean, you may have found a gem here. I'm telling you that this line work, especially go back up. That right there is, that is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And if you added color to that, you would lose all of that detail. Because
I think it depends on the colorist. There's a lot of different colorists out there, but you have to remember that there's some artists out there like Zach Howard, super detailed artist.
Yep.
There's honestly, I even think some of Greg Capullo's work is super detailed, not as detailed
took
as
the words right out of my mouth. Yep.
And so they're colored, but they're colored with just simple gradients. There's not a lot of extra details of highlights and shadows built in. It's just let's just give it a touch of color. But I really I do like the detail, the anatomy of this particular artist, and that's what's coming to mind for me is like, hey, this might be someone I should go check into as a possibility. So, all right. We have looked at 3 different campaigns today on the Showdown of Ultimate Destiny, and now it's time to choose one to back. We've got, again, this one, Cerulean the Sorceress. We've got Worthy Chaos Redemption, which is currently on number 10, but you can get any of them, and then the Department of MetaHuman Affairs. So, it is time, what you've all been waiting for Smurf and I to decide which one of these will get back this week and be the winner of Destiny. Hey, are you ready? I are ready.
I had to put my artistic flair because I'm so well known for my hard work.
I find that great that like every week you throw an artistic flair on me being an artist. I'm just like, meh, letters, words, whatever.
You ready?
It's like the mechanic who works every week doesn't want to come home and work on it.
Well, no, you always can tell mechanic because he's got 6 broken cars in front of the house.
Right. All right. Are you ready?
I am.
All right. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh, look at that. Maybe we're giving away too much during the show because we have yet to not choose the same thing. So maybe we're alluding to our thoughts on it a little too much throughout the show. I don't know, but we have yet to disagree on a final one.
Well, we've come close. There's been different things that have caught our eye, but when it comes down to what you and I have laid down as ground rules, I think we're just following the rules, to be honest with you. And the Sorceress, I think, is a great presentation. I want to know more. The artwork is good, but all of the artwork is good. Don't misinterpret that. And just because we you go into the details of the artwork on this one a little bit more than the other, we're working with what is presented. So I think you and I are just following the rules.
All right. Well, congratulations to Dara Narigi, I don't know if I said that name right, for being selected for Cerulean the Sorceress. I will be going to your Indiegogo and setting up an Indiegogo account for the first time ever to support your campaign. Congratulations to Worthy Chaos and the Department of MetaHuman Affairs for making it into the Wheel of Destiny. For those of you that didn't, feel free to enter in this coming week. The new post should be posting as I speak. It's time to post it at noon. Let's see. I'm also going to do something new. I think I'm going to do a little highlight of the people that we back on the Facebook page. So be looking for that.
Well, I want to propose. We'll do this here because we
You're
would
going
like
to propose to me?
Well, I'm going to propose this to you and to everyone. What if we reached out to one of our last 4 or 5 choices and do an interview with them, like a follow-up interview to, like, you know, how did things go? And if everyone would be interested in us doing that, let us know. Because I'm fine doing interviews. I mean, that's kind of the day job. So, I mean,
well, actually, the suggestion had also come up to talk about and review these books once they come in.
it's true.
So we could sort of do a mix of that, where after we've had a chance to take a look at the book ourselves, then invite that person on and have a quick discussion about it, which by that point will be, in some cases, a couple months down the road, but that's okay. It just opens it up. But we should call that show something different. So we'll have to come up with some names.
That's the title right there. Something different.
The other thing that we'll have to come up with is a time to do it, because both of us are limited on times. So be thinking about another time that would be good. Or we could also pre-record it. It doesn't have to be live.
We can do a pre-record.
All right, let's wrap up with things. Real quickly, if you are interested in being in this show or being on the Showdown of Destiny, be sure and post your active campaigns on the Actionland Studios Kickstarter or Actionland Studios Facebook page. The link is shared to a lot of different groups and group chats, so you might see it in other places. But you need to be sure and post on the Facebook page so that we can easily collect them all, because we don't have time to go around and check all those different places. Okay. Also, you can follow on YouTube at Matt Campbell Art. We definitely want to grow that channel soon. I want to start putting up some tips for storytelling and comic making there. So basically the same stuff I teach to my students at college. If you're interested in getting a more deep dive into learning how to make comics or how to make your books better, or even just getting some feedback, be sure and check out patreon.com/Actionland Studios and join the artist membership. There's also a tier there for the adult content if you're more interested in that. And there's also a tier on there for the Mythica Maniacs. Speaking of Mythica, I do have a new issue of Mythica coming out soon on Kickstarter, and you can see that in the link in the description of this post. But issue 9 is coming soon. You can also get the other issues of Mythica at actionlandstudios.com. Smurf, parting
As
words
always,
and how to find you.
5280 Geek. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook. We're on all of the podcasting platforms under 5280 Geek or Weekend Geek Update, Facebook, and our own website, 5280geek.com. Come over to the geeky side. Share all your friends the little dark secret that we are, and we will try to keep you entertained. And, it's a thing. What can we say? We try. We work hard. But give us a like, give us a share. I don't think Tuesday will be a new podcast this week. I'm going to be home long enough to do a new podcast this week. So, and there's a lot to talk about.
I just listened to your last one for a second time because I've been anxiously looking for a new one.
Yep. This week, actually, there's a lot to discuss, like Superman's new costume, Clarkson's Farm, which is on Amazon. If you're not watching, you're missing out on that. My final thoughts on Shogun, which is epically awesome if you haven't watched it. So, I mean, that's just like a few of the topics that I'll be taking on. I think, what else do I got on this week for the fate of a couple TV shows? One of my favorite ones is going away. So, there you go. And Tron news. Oh, Tron! Love Tron!
Wow, I haven't heard that in a while, so that's interesting.
Yeah, so these little things and more on your Weekend Geek Update.
All right, and where can they find that?
5280geek.com or any podcasting platform, Spotify, Apple.
That's where I listen
iTunes,
to it through.
Amazon. Yeah, I mean, we're iHeartRadio. We're kind of a big thing. Woo-hoo!
Right on, right on. I definitely want to talk to you more about getting into podcasting in the future. But in the meantime, be sure and go check them out. Thank you all for joining us today. We had a really great turnout today, and thank you everyone for commenting. And we'll see you next Friday on the Comic Book Showdown of Ultimate Destiny.
Run fast,
Peace
laugh
out.
hard, and always be kind. Good night.